In today's video, I'm going to show you how to plan your fall garden. Fall is a fantastic time to grow a lot of different kinds of vegetables that don't grow well in the summer or bolt rapidly in the spring once that summer sun hits. However, don't limit yourself to those cool weather crops. Know that you can grow the warm weather plants. Just know that once your first frost hits, it's gonna wipe out those. So you'll have to plant those in plenty of time for them to mature and for you to get a harvest. And I'm just gonna show you the easiest way I have found to plan for my fall garden. It's only June 22nd today, but I like to plan my garden starting July 1st, so I wanted to get this video out right away. Now the first thing I do is I get out a calendar, and it starts in July, so I use this to mark down planting times. I'll show you. But first we have to figure out when is our first fall frost date. And I'm going to figure that out by Googling first frost date and then my zip code. And the first thing that comes up are the spring frost date, and then you just keep scrolling down and you'll come to the fall date for your specific zip code. And then suggested date to start seeds indoors and outdoors. And sorry about the blurry screen. I don't know how to do a screencast and import it into the video editor that I use because my technology skills are weak. So nobody can tell you when exactly you need to plant specific vegetables. That all completely is determined by where exactly you live. And really where exactly you live by your zip code, not by your zone. I'm in zone 9B. My average hottest temperature is 64, and that is in August and September. It does not get warm here. Like, we'll have days in the 70s. Last week we had low 70s, and now we're into the high 50s again. You're always gonna see me in a sweater, most likely, or a sweatshirt. When most people think of zone 9B, they're thinking of the southern regions where it gets really hot, which is not my case at all. My squash plants are barely up out of the ground. My corn is the same. I'm still zone 9B because that is completely determined by how cold you get. And our average lowest cool temperatures are January and December, which is an average of 42. So we don't get a lot of cold here. That's how we are in zone 9B. So for me, my average first frost is November 20th. So I'm going to go to November. That does not mean I won't get a frost before then. You know, it could be a week or two sooner or later. But we're going to start with November 20th. And what I do is I start numbering the weeks backwards. So I'm just going to write week 1, week 2, week 3. And I'll continue 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That brings us through October. Week 13 brings us through September, August. 17 weeks till my first frost. As of July 3rd, or the first week of July, I have 22 weeks before my first frost. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my seed packet and I'm going to see how long do these take to reach maturity. So this one says 76 days to maturity, and it takes 7 to 10 days for them to germinate. So I'm going to add this 10 days to this amount. So 76 plus 10 is 86. So I'm going to need about 86 days for this plant to reach maturity. So then I'm going to put 86 days divided by 7, because that's 1 week. So it's going to take a little over 12 weeks for these to reach maturity. So on the back of this packet, in pen, I'm going to write, I always round up no matter what, I'm going to write 13. These take about 13 weeks to reach maturity. So if I plant some the first week of July, I should be able to get some tomatoes before it gets too cold. So 13 weeks, it seems like I have plenty of time. These do take a lot of heat to ripen them, and it doesn't get real hot here though. So I probably have just enough time to get a nice harvest of these tomatoes. And then I will just continue to do that with every single seed. So this has 60 days to harvest, and then it takes 10 to 15 days to germinate. So I always take the longer number. So we're going to go 60 plus 15. So we're going to allow 75 days for this to mature. It's not going to take that long. The soil temperatures are now at a spot where they will probably take the lesser, but I always do the longer. So 75 divided by 7 So it's going to take me about 11 weeks for this to come to maturity. So if I want these to mature, since I already have a bunch in my garden, if I want these to be maturing about at my frost date, I'm going to go to where my 11-week mark is. Which is right here. So September 11th is about the latest that I would want to plant these cabbages. And I'm going to write this in. Early golden acre cabbage. And I write in the variety because all cabbages have different maturity rates. Remember, I like to write this on every seed pack because then it's a reminder to me that that's how many weeks I have that it takes to grow. And then I just continue that process with every single seed pack that I might want to consider growing sometime before the weather gets too cold. So I pull out the plants that I might potentially want to keep growing through the fall. And I take a look at them and I actually divide them up into. So this first group, they are heat-loving vegetables, and I do not have time to get these planted and harvest before the cool weather hits. But if I still want to grow them, I might decide to put some of these in a pot where I can take them indoors where it's nice and warm once the cold sets in. Or I might just decide I can't grow these this year, next year. Then I have my warm weather-loving vegetables that I make. If I really want to get another group of these started, I make these a priority, and I've already marked down how long they take. And I know that these tomatoes, I'll want to allow at least another 2 weeks because they're going to be ripening for a couple weeks. And the same with the cucumbers. I want to make sure that not only do they have enough time to mature, but that I have time to actually harvest them for a while. And then this next group are the plants that can handle a frost and they won't die off, but they might get damaged. So the pea leaves might get a little damaged. The lettuce might get a little damaged. But for the most part, oops, this guy goes in this, that one goes over here. But for the most part, they're going to handle it okay down to like 30, 32 degrees. They'll do okay. And this last group are actually going to do just fine. They're going to overwinter for me. They'll definitely be okay on a hard frost, and it will actually sweeten up the brassicas and the kales and the root crops. So there's a lot of variety with really great nutrition available that will last quite some time. I can overwinter most of these because it doesn't get real cold here as long as I have a raised bed, because what I fight here is the damp rain and the clay soils. So where I garden is literally a pond. So I have to take that into consideration, and I can only grow those things I want to overwinter in one of my raised beds. Now, if you live in a really warm climate, you might want to start your seeds as transplants indoors because some seeds actually do not want to germinate if it's too hot. So by starting them indoors, you give them a chance to grow, controlled environment, and then you can take them outside and transplant them somewhere where they're getting some afternoon shade, or put a shade cloth over where you're going to be planting them so that they're out of that really high intense heat for part of the day. And like I mentioned, the things I want to overwinter, I have to make sure I have a place for them that won't get wet. Everything you want to plant to harvest in the fall and through winter, you need to be thinking, where am I actually going to put these guys? The more you plan a fall garden and play around with your plants, the easier it becomes to determine what will grow, when, and for how long. So hopefully that was helpful to somebody, and that's all I've got for today. So until next time, see ya.